Welcome to this lesson on percents and decimals. Please be sure you have these notes in front of you so we can begin our lesson. This lesson has two I can statements. The first one says I can write percents as decimals, and the second one says I can write decimals as percents. For our key concepts, let's look back at the horizontal number line. Let's start with 0 in the center. If we move to the right of 0, then we know that our numbers are getting larger. However, if we move to the left of 0, then we know that our number is getting smaller. If we have a problem like 9 divided by 100, we can make this fraction into a decimal by using in and out. After dividing, our decimal would be 0.09. Another way to do this problem is to use this shortcut. So I'm going to start off with a 9, and I know the decimal will be behind the 9. Because the 100 has two zeros in the denominator, I can move my decimal 2 place values to the left. So let's move it 1, 2. And because I'm dividing, my number becomes smaller, and that's the reason why I moved it to the left. So after annexing zeros, I know that my decimal will be 0.09. On the other hand, if we had 9 times 100, I know that this number is getting larger because we are multiplying. But instead of multiplying, I can use this shortcut. I know that the decimal is going to be behind the 9. I know when I multiply a number, the number gets larger. Notice that the 100 has two zeros in the place value, and since my number is getting larger, what I want to do is I want to move my number decimal 2 spaces to the right. Remember, since the numbers get larger, I move to the right. After annexing some zeros, my answer to this problem becomes 900. So let's use these key concepts to discuss the following examples. For example 1, let's review the I can statement. The I can statement says, I can write percents as a decimal. They are giving us the number 5%. Since percents are ratios compared to 100, I can write 5% as 5 over 100. And what I want to do is I want to go ahead and figure out what that looks like as a decimal. So I can write the number 5, and I know the decimal will be placed right behind the 5. Anytime I divide, I know that the number is getting smaller, which means I need to move the decimal 2 spaces to the left. Remember, anytime I move to the left, the numbers get smaller. So I'm dividing. Since I'm dividing 5 by 100, the number gets smaller. So the decimal becomes 0.05, which is equal to 5%. So using the 10 by 10 grid, let's look at what 5% looks like. This is what 5% visually looks like on this 10 by 10 grid. So now let's zoom in onto the tape diagram. And we're going to use this to show what 5% looks like. I know that the value of 0% down here is worth 0. And I know that the value of 100% is worth 1 whole. 5% will go between 0 and 10% right here. So the shaded region shows 5%. And at the very top, the decimal form of that is 0.05. So let's write 48% as a decimal. I can write 48% as a fraction first by writing 48 over 100, because percentages are ratios that are compared to 100. If I assume that the decimal is behind the 8 and I'm dividing, I know that my number is getting smaller, which means I can move my decimal 2 spaces to the left. So 48% is equal to 0.48. On the grid, this is what 48% looks like. Now let's zoom in on the tape diagram so we can see what 48% looks like here. I know that the value of 0% is worth 0, and the value of 100% at the end is worth 1 whole. This is 10%, this is 20%, this is 30%, and this is 40%. But I know I'm going to need a little bit extra, so I'm going to go ahead and draw another shaded region. And I'm going to call this region right here 48%. And on the very top, the decimal form of that would be 0.48. So pause the video and complete these Got It problems, and we will discuss the answers in class tomorrow. Notice I have two Got It problems. Here's Got It problem A and Got It problem B. And please be sure to show a diagram to visually show what these percentages look like. It could be a tape diagram, or it could be a 10 by 10 grid. So for example 3, let's go ahead and make 154% look like a decimal. But before we do that, we can write this percentage as a ratio compared to 100. So I can write it as 154 over 100, because every percentage is out of 100. Since we're dividing, we know that the numbers are getting smaller, and I know that my decimal is placed behind the number. So if I'm dividing, the number gets smaller, I can move my decimal 2 spaces to the left. So my new number is 154% is equal to 1.54. Notice that 1.54 is bigger than 1 whole, just like 154% is bigger than 100%. Using the 10 by 10 grid, let's go ahead and show what 154% looks like. Once again, I need 2 of these 10 by 10 boxes because I'm going over 100%. So this is 100%, and this is 154%. So now let's zoom in on the tape diagram so we can see what 154% looks like on this. I know that the value of 0% is worth 0. I know that the value of 100% is worth 1 whole. And also, I can continue this tape diagram. I know that the value of 200% is worth 2 wholes. This is what 100% looks like, and this is what 154% looks like. We can write the decimal form 1.54 right above it. So pause the video and complete the Got It problem, and we will discuss the answer in class tomorrow. Please be sure you show some type of diagram, either a tape diagram or a 10 by 10 grid, to show what 275% looks like. So now for example 4, the I can statement changes. It says I can write decimals as a percent. So if you want to make a decimal look like a percent, all you have to do is multiply it by 100. So I can take 0.78 and multiply that by 100. I can use a shortcut though. I know that anytime I multiply a number by 100, the number gets bigger. And because 100 has 2 zeros here, I can move my decimal 2 spaces to the right. And once again, it moves to the right because the number gets bigger when I multiply by 100. So the decimal 0.78 is equal to 78%. Using the 10 by 10 grid, and this is what 78% looks like. Now let's zoom into our double number line. I know that the value of 0% is worth 0, and I know the value of 100% is worth 1 whole. Here's 10%, here's 30%, here's 60%, and this is 78% here. And the decimal form of that, which would be 0.78, would go here. So let's go ahead and write 0.8 as a percent. I know that anytime I can make a decimal into a percent, let's just multiply it by 100. So if I take 0.8 and I multiply it by 100, I know that the number is getting larger because I'm multiplying. I can use the shortcut and move the decimal 2 spaces to the right. And once again, I moved it to the right because the numbers are getting larger when I multiply by 100. So I know that 0.8 is equal to 80%. And this is what 80% looks like on the diagram. Let's zoom in and look at what it looks like on the tape diagram. I know that the value of 0% is worth 0, and I know the value of 100% is worth 1 whole. So this is what 80% looks like, and on the top I can write 0.8, which is the decimal form of 80%. So pause the video and complete these got it problems, and we will discuss the answers in class tomorrow. Notice I have 2 got it problems on this slide, got it problem D and got it problem E. Please be sure you show a diagram, either a tape diagram or a 10 by 10 grid, to show what each look like as a percent. So let's write 2.42 as a percent. I know if I want to make a decimal look like a percent, all I have to do is multiply it by 100. So I'm going to use my shortcut. Since I'm multiplying a number by 100, the number is getting larger. So I can move my decimal 2 spaces to the right since it's getting larger. So 2.42 is equal to 242%. Notice that is way over 100%, which is the reason why I have more than one of these 10 by 10 boxes. So this is 100%. This is what 200% looks like. And this is what 242% looks like. So pause the video and complete this got it problem, and we will discuss the answers in class tomorrow. Please be sure to show what this looks like on some type of diagram, either a 10 by 10 grid or a tape diagram. So now that you've completed the lesson, go ahead and self-rate yourself and let us know how you feel. If there's any part of this video that you do not understand, please go back and watch it again, or write down some questions and we will discuss it in further detail.